so the next chapter has made itself too, and this is the first principle, if you like, of nature. The law of nature is that you must first do no harm. Now, do no harm doesn't mean do no harm to other humans. It means do no harm to anything in nature, anything at all. Okay, so what I did was to create that. That was a creative act. Now, in a creative act, you can mess stuff up, you can destroy stuff. What I didn't do was I didn't spill any ink. I didn't destroy my brush afterwards because I immediately closed up put the cap on the ink pot, put it back where it belongs. I washed the ink out of the paintbrush so it didn't harm the paintbrush, or harmed it as little as possible. Carefully got rid of all the ink out of the paintbrush, put the paintbrush back where it belongs so it can dry nicely. And everything's ready for the next move. And the piece of paper I used was a piece of paper that was already sitting out there as part of the manifesto, a blank page that I used just to cover up the cover so I could photograph it properly, and so that got used up. And so in this creative act, something was created and nothing was destroyed. Okay. Now the paper can't be used again, but it can be. You could make a kite out of it and fly it or something. So nature never wastes anything. It's not wasteful at all. And if we follow the will of nature, which is we feel like doing, we do everything that we feel like doing. I felt like I didn't feel like just leaving the ink in the paintbrush and then it dried. I didn't feel like that. I felt like cleaning it. I could have just felt like carrying on with the video and saying, I'll do that later, you know, my mind might have kicked in. No, it's necessary to do everything properly. So this is an example. I'll give you another more important example. Let's say that you were building a house, okay, and you wanted to use the soil around you, okay. Now you could go and find the easiest place to go and dig some soil. Dig a big hole in the ground, just leave it somewhere away from your house, okay, and then come take it to your house and build your house, and then leave this mess somewhere, right? Or you could dig a hole right where your house is. Find your house, put your house in a spot where you can dig, use the surrounding raw materials. Dig a hole and make that a basement underneath the cellar of your house where you can keep your foodstuffs which you're preserving cool and in a good condition so that they last a long time. Okay. So that's how nature works. Nature doesn't waste anything. You don't just dig a hole. Now, I'll tell you a little story. When I was in the Utopia experiment, which was in Scotland, it was an experiment to see what would happen to humanity if society collapsed and it was forced to live together with each other. And it was a very interesting project. I was kind of like the spiritual leader of that project, which means the wise elder who would kind of give the primary wisdom that the rest of the group would follow. Of course, they didn't follow my wisdom, and I ended up having to leave the project. And one of the things I learned there were some pigs, and these pigs, when I arrived, they were sitting on the most sacred spot in the whole community. A special place where there were stones. There was like an almost natural stone circle surrounded by a natural group of trees in a special sacred grove, it would be called in the old Greek. It was natural. And when I arrived, the mother pig was lying in the grove birthing all these little baby pigs. Okay, so you know, this is kind of like a sign, you know. If a sow, there's an old saying, if a sow crosses your path, you're going to come up with some good fortune, right? So I didn't even know that at the time, but here was a sow crossing my path and all these piglets, okay? And so whilst I was building the Utopia experiment, I had to build a couple of yurts and a kitchen communal area. So I learned a lot whilst I was doing that. And it was all made out of just disposable materials that you could just take down and move somewhere else if you wanted to, without damaging the land, so there were no holes dug. Yet when it came to the point where we needed paths, it was becoming a problem, you know, the traffic and the wet and all that. You have to actually look, how do you make the landscape around you perfect so it can live and breathe and for a long time without your feet messing up the ground. And so one day I got up and I noticed that the pig had dug a hole, started to dig holes around my yurt. And instead of saying, "Get away, you pig," and chaining the pig up and saying, "Don't you dare mess my yurt surroundings up," no, the thought comes to me straight from nature. He said, it's time to start the path, okay? And so what the pigs had done is they'd helped me to commence the digging. And this is how nature works. Everything is helping everything else. It's all working together. It's only man that doesn't see this, yeah? Because man is not part of the divine aspect of nature. He's part of the demonic aspect of nature. And the demonic aspect of nature, everything competes. So this is a product of, you know, a heap of worms in a rubbish pile. They're all competing to eat everything up. Whereas, you know, a hive of bees, no, it's cooperating nicely, yeah? And if a wasp comes along, the bees will drive the wasp away, because the wasp is part of demonic nature, okay? And if an area falls into demonic nature and the wasps come to live, and then you come and transform that area by improving it, making it good, the wasp's nest, you don't have to worry about getting rid of it. The bees will come and chase it out and get rid of it, and it will just be, the wasps will be gone. Okay. This is how an area transforms from demonic nature into divine nature. It becomes demonic nature by just letting it go and not looking after it. You can see old boats, you know, they become demonic environments because they just get rotten and horrible. And if you rebuild them and then they come good, they can come good again. You know, but you've got to take all the rot out, you've got to take all the demonic stuff out, and you've got to make sure that all the materials are good and sound. So that's how we should be conducting ourselves in nature, to keep within the good graces of nature. And the good graces of nature are the happiness that nature bestows on us. So that's our grace. It's called grace, a state of grace, which is the grace of nature. Just nature's made us happy because we're not making any criminal offences against nature's divine order. Okay. I'll take 5. I don't know if you noticed there, but the reception wasn't that good, and so in the last section, so without the water together with the fire, the polarity is too misbalanced. If we don't stay within the graces of nature, everything is taken away from us. And ultimately nature has taken herself away from us. And so we're living outside of nature because nature is offended by us. And once we come to learn to do no harm, nature then takes us under her wing and makes us part of the regenerative movement to try to influence mankind to come back to nature. You'll see that in the 1960s movement there were a load of people that came together as part of that movement, and they had to find a way to become part of nature and live as a group in nature, and it wasn't possible for them to be in the organisational fallen and demonic greed cult. And so they had to find another way. And what they did in the 1960s was they created a natural organisation called the farm. Now, it shows it's natural because it didn't call it the crazy farm or the super techno great farm corporation. They just called it the farm because that's what it was. It was the farm. Yeah, come and join us on the farm. Yeah, the farm is a place where you build a society out of. Okay, because the farm is, first you have the farm, and then things evolve on the farm, buildings and instruments to manage and help nature on the farm. And this is an interesting study. If you go and have a look, there's actually a book available that describes the history and the evolution of the farm and the various systems that they evolved at the farm to do with money and how the people were organised or self-organised, how babies came into the world, how the stuff was grown, what they did with the neighbours, and so on and so forth. And so to study the farm is a very interesting thing. I believe the farm book is available probably on archive.org. I know I managed to download a copy of it at one point in time. I did actually have the original copy. It's interesting how things come to you. You know, this is a very, very, very rare book. Yeah, a very rare book. And I was living not in America, but some foreign country. How does this book find its way to a foreign country? And I just at home one day messing around, there's a knock on the door, and there's my mate Dave. And he just come around. Dave never used to visit me. I was used to visit Dave, never used to visit me. And he said, look, I found this book, I was just going through my stuff, I found this book, I thought you might be interested. And he put into my hands an original copy of the manifesto of the guy who created the farm. It was a full colour production, about so thick, A4 sort of size, and full of colour photographs and writings. An original copy from the 1960s. I don't know what this thing's worth, probably a lot of money actually. But he just gave it to me because he knew he was a member of a band that I had at the time called the Blues Animals. And he was a guitarist, and none of us were that great, but we supported each other. We used to, we were at the same sort of level, so we're all learning from each other. And he was a remarkable gentleman, actually, and I have a lot of respect for him. And it's the greatest thing he ever did for me was to give me this book, because I would never have got it anywhere else. And I read this book, and this basically changed my understanding of what happened in the 1960s, because I didn't know about that and the detail of it. And so this is how nature operates. Nature brings you to whatever it is that you need. It's important to you, nature gives it to you. Just got a message in take 5. Well, that's interesting timing, because a friend of mine has just sent me an email to say he's got a picture of the compass. I gave him a compass. I felt it was a significant object to gift to somebody, a compass for his boat, and he wants to send me a picture, so maybe he's actually got the compass installed now in his boat. And if he sends this to me, I'm going to put a picture of that in this video to show you that nature is organising everything here, and it's very, very appropriate, the compass symbol, because if man doesn't get his compass direction right, if he's going west instead of north or east instead of south, what's going to happen to man is he's going to get somewhere, but he's not going to get where he wants to be, and he could just end up in a big hole in the ocean. And that happened a couple of times in the history of the planet. It happened in Lemuria in the Pacific, and it happened in Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean. Complete civilizations were destroyed, okay, because they didn't get their compass right. Their compass, they needed to know the direction to go in. The direction to go in is this. This is the first and most important law, otherwise you're going in completely the wrong direction. First do no harm. Now, there's all this thing about nuclear power. It's a good thing, it's not a good thing. Well, I have to tell you, it is not a good thing, because nuclear power creates nuclear waste. And there's nothing you can do with nuclear waste that doesn't destroy nature. There's no way you can put it, okay? It's not safe. It doesn't belong on the planet. And so, it doesn't even belong in outer space. It belongs nowhere. You just don't make this stuff. And so, if humanity creates a science which is simply anti-nature, it's necessary for them to recognize that. And so, mankind has been going in a direction which is against the way of nature a long, long, long time, a long way. And he's now sitting in the middle of the ocean with not knowing where he is. And nature can just put a big bomb on top of him, boom, and he's gone. Yeah, he's gone. And you know, there's this guy in America, he's had this dream. It keeps coming back to him. He's had it as a child, and it keeps coming back to him. And the dream is that a big meteor comes from the sky and lands on top of him in America, on the west coast of America. And he keeps having this dream, yeah? And he's reporting this dream. And it's a long time, it's a long process, because man is not given just one chance and then boom, you know. Man is given many chances. And the greatest men on the planet working for nature are sent to the greatest people who are working against nature. The greatest possibility is created by nature. These two people come together. Let's say me and Elon Musk, boom, came together, all right? And we shared what we knew. I shared with Elon Musk as a young man what nature wants him to know, and he recognized the intelligence of the teachings and took them to heart and did them. Mankind would progress, okay? But if Elon Musk then took it to the rest of humanity and humanity cancelled Elon Musk and kind of like destroyed him, you understand, at that point Elon Musk would be taken to the most open, the best of the dark side, to talk and come, you know, whose ideas are going to win out. And when if the person who is brought to the table fails, this is a test, he fails, nature can't make him pass, it can only give him the opportunity, then that person has to go down. Okay. All it is that we have to pass our tests, and we have to do whatever nature guides us to do. But the first thing is, do no harm. Okay? That's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.